The Yamato stuff really felt like a last-minute decision. Regardless of how you felt about the character, when a plot point is set up for 2 years and then randomly 180s in the final pages, that seems very clunky to me and leaves me to wonder what the point of it all was in the first place. I agree with a lot of this, it is definitely clunky. I think it's just missing one step to be convincing, and that step is why Yamato made this decision. I've seen a bunch of people posit that this is a result of the whole Green Bull situation. Yamato saw how terrifyingly strong all of the non-Kaido people can be, and decided that it would be better to stay like a good guardian doggo and do a bit of a protect of Wano. And I would have been pretty fine with that. Or at the very least just as fine as Jinbei rejecting Luffy's invitation because of all of the unfinished fish business. But the thing is, Yamato didn't say that. There was no epiphany moment of character growth that happened here. As presented to us, Yamato is staying on Wano simply to live like Kozuki Oden, which just so happens to be the exact same reason why Yamato wanted to leave in the first place. So what changed from Yamato's perspective? Nothing at all. Oda either changed his mind about the direction of the story, or was always saving Yamato for some sort of greater/different purpose down the line. Either way, the off-screen epiphany and the frankly weak reasoning just doesn't really do it for me, because I think we could have landed on the exact same outcome with a much more satisfying and solid reason. You know, just saying something like, I want to stay in the Wano to make sure it's safe and eventually open the borders like Oden wanted. Like, it really would have been that simple. I feel Yamato's situation is similar to Jinbei's. They want to join the crew, but they have to do something important prior to sailing. Yeah, I don't think so. This feels very different, definitely much more like a Vivi and Karoo situation. With Vivi, Luffy never actually asked her to join the crew. It was just known that a slot was open if she so desired. Meanwhile, with Jinbei, Luffy actively sought out to recruit him in a very, very demanding way. And Yamato falls into the former category because yeah, there's always space on the ship if you want to come aboard, but Luffy doesn't particularly care either way. In addition, Jinbei initially refused because he had quite legit business to settle with the Big Mother before he was free to take up another role. But Yamato doesn't have any such restriction. In fact, the whole point now is that Yamato is free and therefore has no restrictions. So it seems more like a decision that was made on a whim, at least like from the character perspective. Kind of like getting into the most prestigious of university courses that you can imagine, but then declining it because you wanted to take a gap year in order to explore a wasteland. As much as I make fun of it though, there is something very potentially exciting about that idea, which is that Yamato is now a very easy choice for a future cover story. We chronicle Yamato's adventures around Wano, retracing the steps of Odin, and potentially gathering an entire new legion of vassals, and then finally ending it by setting out to sea. I'll also say that there's something really nice and nostalgic when I think about the current composition of the crew, because setting sail from Wano, we have a gang of entirely pre-time skip characters. No companions, but maybe one Caribou, that still has yet to be seen, but really just core One Piece. And that hasn't happened in a long time. Will there be a new crew member before Laugh Tale is my question. Yes, I think that's your question. And to answer it, if it is, I'm now thinking probably not. I mean, I could be very wrong, but it feels like Wano really was the last chance for a new core crew member. Kind of like how Odin was the last new member of the Roger Pirates. From here on out, we're just gunning to finish that story. So I don't know if there's going to be time to develop any new characters, especially into a main protagonist. And if it were to happen, then I imagine it would be someone we already know, so that we don't have to take a lot of time to tell their story in depth. But then again, that also doesn't sound particularly satisfying. So right now, Jinbei does feel like a pretty solid full stop here. LeBron James. Yes, yet another character who did not join the crew in this chapter. Very disappointing. I'm so excited about the fact that Wano is now officially under Luffy's name. I still can't wait for the Grand Fleet, not us, them, to make their grand return to the story. Yeah, I think it would actually be really fun to have them all head to Wano and receive such a warm, Luffy-filled welcome. I imagine Bartolomeo and Yamato would get on quite well due to both of them being massive weebs in their own right, just stuck in this constant circle jerk about how cool Luffy and Ace are. That or they wouldn't get on at all because they're both so passionate, like your classic rivalry between Zoro and Sanji fans. But also maybe this is the big thing that the fleet does. They go to Wano, resurrect a certain Pluton, and then set sail with it. That would certainly be a great incident of historic proportions. I am 18 years old. When I first saw Kinemon in 2014, I was about 9 years old. When I read the end of the chapter, I realized I have known this character as part of the crew for half of my life, and now I probably won't see him again for at least a couple of years. It hit me hard and painfully. I will miss Kinemon, and I have a very similar feeling. Sadly, I'm significantly, and I mean significantly significantly older than 18, but still I've come to the realization that Kinemon has been a part of like a whole third of my life. And the very weird thing is that for most of that time, I've not really paid him any mind. He's just been a dude that was there and, occasionally releasing gas as a form of communication. But because he has just been the dude that was there for so long, his absence is going to be very noticeable and like I've lost a character. All I can say is that I am beyond happy with how Kinemon's story unfolded. He is one of the greatest surprises of One Piece, and I never expected to feel such empathy for a fart samurai. Even more so than Momonosuke and Oden, Kinemon was the heart of Wano. And one fake death scene aside, he was pretty much played to perfection. I'm happy, apart from the fact of the repetitive flashback. So I didn't talk about this in the chapter review because, to be honest, I completely forgot it happened. And I saw a few people complaining about the flashback being a waste of page time and comparing it to the Toei filler flashbacks, but I don't quite feel the same way. However, in the interest of full disclosure, I did kind of skim through these pages, but that's because I live and breathe this stuff. All of these scenes are well and truly burned into my mind brain. I couldn't forget them if I tried. But to a more casual reader, I do think this was necessary, because this abridged retelling of the Luffy-Momo dynamic contained scenes that happened anywhere from 1 year ago to 10 years ago. And for Momonosuke's situation to have any emotional resonance, we needed those scenes to be fresh. I also think that it's important because we got to see Momonosuke in his child form for, well, probably the last time. And it's a good way of showing that everything he's feeling right now are the turbulent emotions of a child. Some of you might think that's already pretty obvious, but I guarantee that it isn't. Without this flashback, Momo breaking down in tears would have lacked some pretty significant punch. It's actually exactly what I would have wanted from Yamato, going through that inner process of landing at a reason for feeling a certain way, even if it's all just a string of flashbacks being put together to arrive at a different conclusion. But Oda definitely did Momo good here. On that extra Uta page, there was a woman with a baby that looked suspiciously like Luffy. I would like to know your opinion about that. My first thought was, no way. Did he just drop Luffy's mother like it's nothing? Alright, so in case you're unaware, the last 3 chapters have had some special Uta pages to tie into the whole film Red thing, and these are not included with the official release or officially translated in any capacity, at least to the best of my knowledge. Maybe it is, but I haven't seen anything. So it's one of those scans or nothing kind of situations. And in this finale page, there was a shot of a woman with a baby. And the One Piece fanbase, being what it is, pretty immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was Luffy's mother. And I suppose in terms of the One Piece timeline, it might kind of work, but it doesn't matter because that's not what happened. The story here is that the red hair pirates couldn't figure out how to get Uta to stop crying. Then they stumbled upon a mother singing to her baby, decide, hey, that looks good, let's give that a go, and it works. But my favorite part is that this page starts out with a childcare meeting, which just looks like a gathering of the Deadbeat Dad Society. I mean, I'll never say never, but it's almost certainly not Luffy and his mother. I am really looking forward to seeing Usopp's further development in the story. He has kind of been neglected in Wano, but I am hoping we will see huge development in Elbaf sometime soon. You know what? I really miss Usopp. He's had a bit of a rough decade, not quite as bad as, say, Chopper, but Usopp was a very, very tertiary character in Wano, and he wasn't present on Whole Cake Island at all. So the last moment of true glory our sniper had was making a bit of a funny face on Dressrosa, which I loved, but it is definitely time for more Usopp. We need it. I need it. I am curious if one of the non-Devil Fruit members of the crew will eventually eat one. I think it would be nice to see Nami or Usopp eat one, even if it's not too special, in order to spice up their movements and make them stronger to compete. Again, never say never, but I personally hope not. To me, Usopp's whole appeal is that he is the every person in the story, the one who shares the perspective of the readers. Being embroiled in this massive, chaotic, and terrifying world with no special powers, I mean aside from some special haki now, but even so, Usopp is a character who has to survive with his wits and skill alone, and giving him a fruit power would risk ruining that appeal. Nami as well, I'm perfectly fine with them being regular people on this impossible adventure just constantly pissing their pants out of fear, because we have plenty of wacky heavy hitters, but we are in very short supply of more actually human characters. I have the most chilling feeling on my back that Carrot will unfortunately join the crew. I mean, we didn't see them at all this chapter, and the running joke with Minx is that they always find a way to sneak on board. So whether you're a Carrot fan or not, I think that this makes more actual sense than Carrot becoming the new Mink leader. Thinking about it, Carrot was dealt with very similarly to Yamato, as in it feels like a forced situation to prevent the character from pursuing their natural path. path. Because whether it's the will of Pedro or the will of Odin, that pathway is aboard with the Straw Hats. They don't get to fulfill any wills whatsoever by staying in their respective kingdoms. Questions. Do you think the property market in Ambereddraws is as expensive as Australia? Mate, that very much depends which part of Australia you're talking about. I mean, for example, about a year ago in Sydney, a tiny 2-bedroom house was sold in my mother's area for a whopping $1.6 million dues. That's a lot of dollary dues. And we're not even talking in like a fancy area of Sydney. So I'm just like, what person can afford that? As for Ambereddraws, I don't imagine economic issues being a huge problem. The world nobles have essentially all of the money, so buying anything must just feel like paying nothing. So imagine this, right? You go to buy a new car, but then instead of actually paying with money, what you do is you just write down the number on a piece of paper and you give that to the dealer. I think that's what spending money feels like to a world noble. After a decade, the story of Wano is over. This has been a goal since Punk Hazard, and now we are finally moving forward in the story. A breath of fresh air starting next chapter, and I love it already. Me too, and I'd also like to take this opportunity to congratulate each and every one of you who started reading One Piece during Wano, which according to the various polls I've done is anywhere from 40 to 50% of you guys watching. But you have officially just made it through your very first weekly One Piece arc, and you're now going to have the insanely joyous experience that is starting a new adventure. But while we wait for that adventure to commence, here is another video, and I look forward to seeing you there. It's adventure, you have to click it.